So I was really inspired by Montel B's recent series of videos on her 12-week year, tracking her progress, and now most recently finishing up her 12-week year. So congratulations to her. And I really wanted to take the time today to go over the goals that I have for a 12-week year between August 1st to November 1st, and specifically looking at why are those the goals that I'm setting? What are the kind of strengths and strategies that I have to make sure that they actually happen the way I plan? And then also challenges that I'm foreseeing that I'm going to have plans in place to overcome. So let's just get right into it. What are my goals for this 12-week year? Well, there are 4 goals that I have, and the first goal is to feel really prepared for my upcoming USMLE Step 1 board exam. It's the preclinical kind of checkpoint standardized exam that all medical students in the country have to take before they go on to their clinical rotations. And I'm really excited to go on rotations and just probably number 1 priority for me as a medical student. So that's number 1. And I specifically use the terminology of feel prepared because I really feel like in general, my goals should be ones that I have control over. So I know that I can set up a study plan and I can execute that in a way that will make me feel really prepared, but I can't necessarily ensure that I'm going to, perform exactly how I want to on the day of. I can only do as much preparation as possible in advance and kind of set myself up for success that way. So that's number 1. And then number 2 is in my research, I really want to transition onto some upcoming projects that are very personally interesting to me. So I've mentioned before on the channel that I'm interested in oncology and specifically trying to mesh that with different aspects of public health. So for example, the environment and climate change that I'm really interested in. So there's some projects that I could potentially work on related to that that I'm very excited about, but I have to finish up the project I'm currently working on before I can start doing that. So definitely want to do a good job on the work that I currently have. And so I'm hopeful that I can even finish it early in terms of August 1st to November 1st. Maybe I can finish in October, but definitely need to have it done by that deadline. And let's see, for my third goal, I've been doing Spanish starting like sometime early this year, and it's been really enjoyable. I feel like I've been making progress, and I've been using this platform called Lingoda, which is an online Zoom-based live classroom format. And I think it's been really great for improving my speaking. I took French for 3 years in high school and a little bit in college, but I feel like in some ways I feel more comfortable speaking in Spanish because of the kinds of practice that I've gotten through Lingoda. So I want to pass from the level that I'm currently in, which is like the 2nd level, onto 3rd, which would now be considered intermediate and no longer beginner, before November 1st. And I think that will be very much achievable because I do 3 classes a week, and on that timing, as long as I keep up with it and don't get derailed by things like exam weeks and that kind of thing, then I'll be able to achieve it with really no problem. But it's something that I wanted to put on my list for my 12-week year because learning Spanish and getting really proficient in it in terms of speaking to patients in Spanish and being comfortable with that is a very high priority for me. And so I don't want to feel like it is either detracting from like my overall goals. I want it to be a main focus of mine, and also potentially I could even make progress faster than I currently am. So that's number 3. And then the last and final goal that I almost didn't even have at the beginning because I guess I almost felt like it wasn't necessary, and I'll explain that. But my final goal is to improve my mile time. So I am currently training for a triathlon, not necessarily this year, but within the next 2 years, I want to do a full Ironman, which is a full marathon, like biking over 100 miles and then swimming like 2.4 miles. I don't even know exactly what the numbers are, but it is it's a big goal of mine. And so I found the perfect time for me to do it during medical school because oftentimes there's not really that much time to do these kinds of events. So I need to be prepared for that. And so I've been kind of exercising regularly, having more of a focusing on being consistent in the gym rather than trying to get my workout volume and number of miles up super high right now. And so I'd like to improve my mile time and get faster. My mile time has been really slow for a long time. I considered my benchmark to be 12 and a half minutes. But I had actually kind of thought of, oh, it'd be really nice to improve that to like a 10-minute mile. And even though I hadn't necessarily set it as a goal just yet, I then the next day and then the day after that did a mile in like a 10.5-minute mile and then a 10-15 mile. So I realized that a 10-minute mile would be probably very achievable, more so than I thought. I really thought I had plateaued in terms of my speed and was worried about that. But because I was able to improve so quickly, I'm actually going to increase the goal. So I want to hit a 9-minute mile by November 1st. And I think that I could potentially even do that over a longer period of time. So that'd be great because I really need to build endurance. So just in short, preparing for step one, transitioning my research to new projects. So basically finishing up the project I'm currently on, continuing with my Spanish and transitioning to the intermediate level, which will be very exciting. And then finally, improving my mile time. Those are my main goals, and they really kind of span the breadth of like what my focus is in terms of my overall life. So all of that being said, I think the juiciest part of this is really to dig into what are the ways that I'm going to make sure this actually happens. Like, it's nice to say that I have these goals, but how am I really going to make this into reality? And so I jotted down a few things on Good Notes, which is where I do all of my journaling, and I have my iPad right here. And in terms of strengths, I think that these goals, first of all, are ones that I feel naturally motivated and disciplined to pursue, which I think that a lot of people on YouTube tend to not focus on. They tend to kind of focus more so on the systems and the environment, which I do think is really important. But I do think that before you get into that, you need to make sure that you're setting goals that are actually truly what you want and not something that you think you should want. And two, that you feel some kind of intrinsic excitement and motivation about the goal. I think that that is a good sign that it's a good thing to pursue. And then talking about systems, I have since a few months now been really into various daily planning systems. So I have kind of an ecosystem now that is really helpful for me in terms of making sure that I'm achieving what I want every day. So I have a habit tracker, and I think that it's free on the iOS store, and it's just called Habit. And that's how I track specific goals that are more so weekly or counting types of goals. And then I also have a time tracker, which is called A Tracker, also available for free on the iOS store. And I did purchase for $5 flat the premium version, so that way I could track more kinds of activities. But I think that for most people, actually, the free version will work perfectly for them, and it also syncs with your calendar, and there's a lot of extra functionality and kind of data analysis that you can do very easily, which is why I really love this app and swear by it. So I highly recommend that. And I think that the value of a time tracker is really to understand how long things actually take you and where you're really spending your time. So I found myself at a certain point in the year asking myself, hey, where did the day go? What did I do today? And now I just never have that question. And I feel like I've gotten way, way better at understanding how long things actually take, which helps me plan my day much better. And also, I really swear by reminders, the Apple reminders. It's just the default app that comes with any iPhone, or whatever the equivalent would be on Android as well. It should work just fine. But when it comes to reminders, I think it's very, very helpful, at least for me, to schedule your reminders for specific days, because what that does is rather than having potentially 100 reminders that you're not really sure how to prioritize or categorize, if there's something that I actually want to get done, I need to have it on a specific day. And that gives me a sense of, for example, if I have too many things to do today that I know there's no way I can possibly accomplish them, I need to move it to another day where it will like fit into my schedule. And that has been like a very good reality check for me and helped me to actually zero out my to-do list on specific days. That was something that was unthinkable for me before. I would have a laundry list of things to do and just always feeling like you're never quite catching up. Another thing that is going to help me is to do regular journal check-ins, which is something that I already do kind of like when the mood strikes me, and I don't try to pressure myself into journaling every day. It's something really enjoyable and kind of therapeutic for me, so I'm not trying to turn it into a chore. But just checking in on, hey, how is the 12-week year going, and where can I kind of switch things up so that way I'm making sure that I stay on track. Because you may have seen a kind of like graph on social media showing that people think that progress is this straight line with an upward slope, but in actuality there's all these dips and curves, and it's the pilot making all these tiny adjustments every single day that helps the plane fly seemingly straight. Another thing that I think has been really helpful in terms of making sure this 12-week year goes to plan is that I'm not starting from a place where I'm trying to build everything from scratch. I've already built up a habit in terms of how I plan my day, going to the gym, exercising regularly, and so I'm building on the existing habits that I already have and trying to use those to my advantage in order to accomplish a goal. So I do suggest that if you are just getting started, that you start with something that you know you can achieve. So for example, when I was someone who was like very unfit and like had never been in sports in high school, I was really clumsy and just like the opposite of athletic. I started out just by doing 15 minutes on the treadmill, and I didn't even run, I just walked, and I watched YouTube videos or listened to podcasts, whatever I wanted to do, whatever I would already naturally be doing, but just doing it on the treadmill. And then that is what has snowballed into now a very regular gym routine. And I think the last thing that really needs to be said is balance. So in terms of kind of like understanding myself, I know that I'm someone who really enjoys variety, and I feel like the way that I'm going to accomplish these goals is really through doing a little bit every day or on specific days that I've scheduled. So for example, I schedule my research to pretty much always be done on the weekends. And that is my dedicated time. I know that like, okay, today I need to do X number of hours of research on Saturday and Sunday, and sometimes I'll also like work on the weekdays, but that's not necessarily the expectation. So I think that having a balance in terms of, for example, I don't try to force myself to work while I'm eating. Oftentimes I will finish lunch really quickly, or I will choose to work while I'm eating just because it's something I want to do, but I don't put pressure on myself to be professionally productive at all times of day. I really enjoy like certain things, like getting to get ready in the morning in a leisurely way and putting on music and not trying to squeeze out every single second as if I need to be like a medical school machine studying at every second, because I find that that is really, at least for me and I think for a lot of other people, what leads to burnout is you don't have balance. And so I think that that's a really important piece of advice, is to make sure that every single day you're doing things that are replenishing you. And that includes work. I think that we give work a bad rap these days, but I would not enjoy just like avoiding work even for a few days. So I think the key is to once you find work that you find valuable or fulfilling in some way, that you kind of enact it in a way that makes it sustainable and makes it enjoyable for you. So enough about that. What are the challenges that I'm really foreseeing and how am I going to overcome them? So there's a couple challenges, 4 of them, in fact. And I think one, going off of what I was saying earlier, preventing burnout is going to be a really big thing. And as I said, building in self-care and also building in time with loved ones during the day and also during the week, I think is super, super important. So for example, my significant other and I, we always have a date night every Friday, or sometimes it's on Saturdays, but we know that every week we're gonna go do something fun, and it's time that's just for us to purely enjoy ourselves and be with one another. There's no like extra errands or anything like that that we're trying to do at that time. And I think that's been really just so helpful, also because it gives us an opportunity to explore the city and to feel more like we are like part of our community rather than just sitting in our apartment and studying all the time. Another thing would be managing extracurriculars. So in medical school, if you are involved in either student government or what we call SIGs, so student interest groups, the commitments there can really add up, especially if you are the kind of person to naturally overload yourself. So what I am going to be doing this semester in terms of managing that is I'm going to be focusing on just 1 to 2 key projects per organization that I'm part of and make sure that those get done. Everything else is stuff that, sure, it'd be nice and I will definitely support those efforts, but I just need to be hyper focused on what's actually, I think, most important in each of my extracurricular organizations. And the last 2 things, not to drag this on any longer, I think unexpected research delays could potentially be a challenge, as well as having to study for the blocks that I am doing for school. So for example, right now we are on neurology, and balancing that with having to study for our standardized exam are going to be challenges. So the strategies that I have for managing that is, 1, when it comes to research delays, I think that it's really, really important to be proactive in my communication and also to propose solutions if things are getting delayed for some reason. And in terms of studying, I think that a strategy that will be very helpful for me in particular is to study together, study with buddies. So whether that's my SO or with friends who are also in medical school, that I think is going to help me in terms of when I have to study for the blocks, and also using the actually spare time that I found in my calendar. Not infrequently these days I find that, oh, there's like an hour or 2 today that I could do something with and I don't have anything on my to-do list for today. So that's a good feeling to be able to push work up and do it earlier than you had originally intended. So one of the benefits of having those daily schedule systems. Okay, everyone, so that is all now for my kind of first update on my 12-week year, and I will try to give at least one mid 12-week year update and definitely one at the end to kind of review how I did and what I could improve on. So this is really for accountability, and thank you all for watching.